Starship Flight 12 is hitting new roadblocks, with SpaceX officially revealing a recent test anomaly. At the same time, a major update from NASA points to delays in Artemis 3, driven by the readiness of Starship and Blue Origin's Blue Moon lander. On a more positive note, progress continues on Pad 2 readiness, and the next set of Starship vehicles is already moving through production. Let's dive into each of these developments, one by one. Preparation for Starship Flight 12 is entering its final phase, but the latest updates indicate that progress is not as smooth as initially expected. Ship 39 and Booster 19, the vehicles assigned to this mission, are currently back at the production site following their recent static fire campaign. At the time, this was widely interpreted as a completed test campaign, with the next step expected to be rollout to the launch site for full-stack testing, including the wet dress rehearsal. However, the recently released first episode of SpaceX's documentary series Test Like You Fly suggests otherwise. The key issue centers on Booster 19's 33-engine static fire. What was initially interpreted as a successful short-duration 3-second test is now understood to have been an aborted event. According to SpaceX engineers, the abort was triggered by a pad-side issue involving the flame diverter system. The test progressed through engine startup, but shortly after ignition, sensor data from one of the ramp manifolds indicated a drop in pressure that was likely not representative of actual conditions. This false reading caused the automated safety system to trigger an abort.
Today we aborted our second attempt of the B-19 full count static fire. We actually had another pad abort on the diverter. We made it through engine startup and then ultimately lost some of our sensors on one of the ramp manifolds. It basically said that the manifold pressure was lower than we believed that it probably was, and it kicked us out at T plus 1.88 seconds.
The underlying challenge appears to be related to the difficulty of fully replicating the dynamic environment experienced during a full engine firing. While ground systems like the diverter can be tested extensively in isolation, the combined effects of vibration, acoustic loads, and thermal conditions during simultaneous operation of 33 engines introduce variables that are difficult to simulate beforehand. A similar pad-side abort was also observed during the earlier 10-engine static fire in March, where all engines successfully ignited and began ramping up before a sensor-triggered shutdown commanded a rapid cutoff. That abrupt shutdown introduced significant mechanical stress on the engines, leading teams to remove all 10 engines from the booster for detailed inspection and replacement before testing could resume.
We successfully lit all 10 engines. They were ramping up to power. Everything was looking good, stage and engines combined. However, there was a pad-side abort called. So what that means is some sort of sensor tripped, and from there we command a fast shutdown. We saw some data right after static fire that showed about half the engines had what looked like mechanical damage, basically as a result of the really fast shutdown. So we brought the booster back to Mega Bay. We then decided to remove all 10 engines from the booster so that we could troubleshoot and understand what's going on those 10 while still making progress on B-19 by backfilling engines from B-20.
While the exact causes may differ, both incidents highlight the challenge of operating pad-side systems under the extreme acoustic, thermal, and pressure conditions generated during multi-engine operation. As a result, Booster 19 was rolled back to the production site, while work continues at the launch pad to address the diverter-related issue identified during the test. The booster is expected to return to the launch site for another static fire attempt, likely a longer duration test to validate stable operation under full thrust conditions before proceeding toward Flight 12. In contrast, Ship 39, the upper stage, has successfully completed its static fire campaign and has transitioned into post-test processing, including detailed inspections of its engines and verification of critical onboard systems such as avionics, flight computers, electrical networks, and telemetry links to ensure flight readiness. Based on the current pace of progress, a launch attempt in May remains a reasonable possibility. Meanwhile, infrastructure readiness at Launch Pad 2 is progressing in parallel. Recent activity has focused on the Ship Quick Disconnect System, a critical interface responsible for transferring cryogenic propellants from the ground storage tanks to the upper stage. This system must perform reliably under extreme thermal and mechanical conditions, maintaining a sealed connection during fueling, and executing a clean, rapid disconnect at liftoff. To validate this, multiple actuation tests of the quick disconnect arm have been conducted, ensuring precise alignment, mechanical reliability, and timing accuracy. In addition, long-duration propellant flow tests, likely using liquid oxygen and liquid nitrogen, have been carried out to verify flow stability, pressure regulation, and thermal behavior within the transfer lines. Observed venting during these tests indicates active conditioning of the system, ensuring that propellants reach the SQD interface at the correct temperature and phase without inducing cavitation or flow instability. These rehearsals are critical, as the upcoming wet dress rehearsal will be the first full operational use of this system with a fully stacked vehicle. Beyond Flight 12, production of future vehicles continues at an accelerated pace. Ship 40, assigned to Flight 13, has completed primary assembly and is approaching cryogenic proof testing to validate structural integrity under flight-like pressure and thermal conditions. Its flight partner, Booster 20, is also progressing through assembly, with the final ring section of its methane tank moved into Megabay 1 last Sunday, completing methane tank stacking. Early Thursday morning, the support stand used during methane and oxygen tank stacking operations was removed from the assembly building, indicating that Booster 20 is now fully stacked. Integration of plumbing, avionics, and control systems will follow next. For Flight 14, assembly of Ship 41 is already underway. Its common dome has recently been joined to the existing stacked sections. Additional tank sections and aft flaps are expected to be installed in the coming days as the vehicle takes shape. In a separate update, we now have official statements from NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman regarding the Artemis III timeline, with key implications for both SpaceX's Starship and Blue Origin's Blue Moon landers. Under NASA's revised mission architecture, Artemis III is no longer a direct lunar landing mission as originally planned. The mission has already been restructured into an Earth orbit test mission, focused on validating critical systems before committing to a surface attempt. Under this revised architecture, NASA will launch the Orion spacecraft aboard the Space Launch System. The mission will primarily test rendezvous and docking operations between Orion and the human landing systems, validating the ability to safely transfer crew between vehicles in orbit. The mission will also validate the integrated performance of key spacecraft systems, including propulsion performance, life support, and communication links, ensuring that these systems function reliably as an integrated architecture before attempting a crewed lunar landing. When NASA outlined this revised mission plan in February, the agency was targeting a launch as early as mid-2027, followed by crewed lunar landing missions in 2028. Now, speaking during a House budget hearing, Isaacman confirmed that Artemis III is expected no earlier than late 2027. He stated that both SpaceX and Blue Origin have informed NASA that their respective landers will only be ready for orbital testing by that timeframe. From a Starship perspective, this reflects the scale of the technical challenge. The human landing system variant requires in-orbit cryogenic refueling, long-duration life support, and precise lunar descent and ascent with crew, all of which must operate together as a fully integrated system. Blue Moon faces similar challenges in human rating and sustained orbital operations. This shift in timeline will likely cascade into Artemis IV and subsequent lunar landing missions, although the exact extent of that delay remains uncertain. Now, let's discuss the latest updates from the world of science and technology. As per reports, a piece of a Falcon 9 rocket launched in early 2025 is now on course to collide with the Moon. The object is the second stage from the January 15th mission that carried Firefly's Blue Ghost and iSpace's Hakuto R landers. After successfully deploying its payloads, the upper stage remained in a cislunar orbit, making repeated close passes by both Earth and the Moon. Because the stage did not have sufficient fuel to either re-enter Earth's atmosphere or escape into a stable solar orbit, it has been following a chaotic trajectory, influenced by both Earth and lunar gravity, which has now led to a confirmed lunar impact path. According to astronomer Bill Gray, who writes the widely used Project Pluto software to track near-Earth objects, the impact is expected to occur on August 5th at around 6:44 UTC. The stage, measuring approximately 13.8 meters in length and 3.7 meters in diameter, will strike the lunar surface at a velocity of about 2.43 kilometers per second near the Einstein crater region on the near side of the Moon, creating a small impact crater, likely on the order of tens of meters across. Beyond being a rare event, the impact presents an opportunity for scientific observation. Lunar orbiters from multiple countries, currently circling the Moon, may image the newly formed crater, And by comparing before and after imagery, scientists can analyze ejecta patterns to infer regolith properties and the composition of the shallow subsurface at the impact site. A comparable event occurred in March 2022 when the upper stage of the Long March 3C rocket, which launched China's Chang'e 5T1 uncrewed lunar flyby mission, impacted the moon, producing a unique double crater measuring roughly 16 and 18 meters across. These events also highlight a growing operational challenge. As lunar missions increase in the future, the number of discarded rocket stages in cislunar space will rise significantly. Without proper disposal strategies, these objects can remain in unstable orbits for years before eventually impacting the moon. A practical mitigation is to place these stages into stable heliocentric disposal orbits, but this requires additional propellant and mission planning, something that may become standard as lunar activity scales up. SpaceX has returned its Falcon Heavy to flight after the longest gap in its operational history, marking its first launch in over 18 months and the 12th mission since its debut in 2018. The mission lifted off on April 29th from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center, carrying the Viasat-3 F3 communications satellite. The ascent proceeded nominally, with the vehicle passing through max Q before stage separation. Approximately 2.5 minutes after liftoff, the two side boosters separated from the center core. These flight-proven boosters, one on its second flight and the other on its 22nd, executed boost back and entry burns before performing precise landings around 8 minutes after liftoff. The boosters landed at landing zones 2 and 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, demonstrating the precision of SpaceX's recovery operations. Following booster separation, the center core continued its burn, propelling the upper stage and payload toward orbit. After completing its role, the core stage, making its first flight, was intentionally expended in the Atlantic Ocean to maximize performance for the 6,500 kilogram payload and meet the energy requirements of a geosynchronous transfer orbit. The second stage then performed multiple burns over several hours, ultimately deploying the satellite into geosynchronous transfer orbit nearly 5 hours after liftoff. From there, the spacecraft will use its onboard electric propulsion system to gradually raise its orbit to geostationary altitude over the coming months. Viasat-3 F3, built by Viasat, is the third and final satellite in the company's Terabit-class constellation. The program began with its first satellite launched in May 2023 aboard a Falcon Heavy, followed by the second in last November on an Atlas V, and now concludes with this mission, completing a 3-satellite global network architecture. Designed to deliver over 1 terabit per second of Ka-band capacity, the constellation will provide high-speed connectivity across the Asia-Pacific region, including remote oceanic areas critical for aviation and maritime operations. The satellites will support residential, enterprise, mobility, and government users with advanced digital beamforming and dynamic spectrum allocation, enabling broadband speeds exceeding 100 megabits per second across a wide coverage area. With this mission, Falcon Heavy makes a strong return to operational cadence, and its next flight is already targeted for July, when it is expected to launch Griffin Mission 1, Astrobotic's lunar lander toward the moon. Thank you for tuning in for the latest science news and Starship updates. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.